I just got out of the theaters witnessing Alien Romulus on the big screen, and I have some things that I want to discuss for this film, guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss this film. Let's get into the movie review. Let's go. Alien Romulus is a new horror thriller with sci-fi elements directed by Fede Alvarez that is the 9th installment into the Alien franchise, and inside of this film, while scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station, a group of young space colonizers come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. That being the Xenomorph, which we've been seeing on screen for about 45 years now, and going into this film there was a ton of hype behind it. I personally was really excited to watch this film. The build up to it was amazing. The trailers that they've dropped for this film were amazing. So walking into this film, especially after consulting my friends and them having high praises for this film, I was very excited to say the least. And did this film live up to the hype? Well, I have some positives and some negatives to discuss about this film, but I gotta say, overall, it is mostly positive. So with that being said, let's begin with the positives for Alien Romulus. Starting off with our protagonist inside of this film, Carradine, who's played by Cailee Spaeny. They decided to go with a female lead for this film, which I think was a great touch. It's reminiscent to the original Alien 1979 film, where we get a classic performance and take on the character Ellen Ripley. So I thought it was great that this film followed in the original's footsteps, with Cailee Spaeny being this female lead that the audience is following now. She does an amazing job inside of this film. She's the most memorable character over the entire watch time for this film, which by the way, it comes in about 2 hours, so a perfect viewing experience at the theater. And this film was a very unsettling watch. It's freaky, it's horrifying, it's disturbing. There's a big use of body horror inside of this film, which is consistent throughout most of this franchise, and you get some callbacks to the original with things bursting out of the chest, which of course is the infamous scene from the original Alien 1979. And yeah, the more this film went on, the more I was disturbed, the more I was squeamish and finding it very difficult to watch what was on the screen. The Xenomorph inside of this film is horrifying. It likes to hide in the shadows. Its design is disturbing. Not only that, but there's baby Xenomorphs by the dozen always chasing our main characters. So you get plenty of disgusting scenes with this alien parasite, and I thought it was all fantastic. Now, Fede Alvarez, while directing this film, made sure to use practical effects and animatronics for the Xenomorphs and for the other creatures that we see inside of this movie, which was a fantastic approach to this film because it's very believable. It all comes across very real. You're not watching CGI scene to scene from this film. No, these are real practical effects that the actors are really engaging and interacting with and being horrified by, I can only assume, and that all plays over very well inside of this film. It was a great directional choice. Now, an important detail my friend Joe pointed out to me was how great the sound design is inside of this movie. They do a fantastic job with the sound design from every scene. I love how when the camera's panned out and we're getting a view from space and we're actually out in space as the audience, it is dead silent inside of this film and inside of the theater in general, because of course, as we know, space is a vacuum. There's no sound in space. So unlike, when you're watching Star Wars and you're hearing the laser beams go off, you wouldn't actually be hearing that if you were out in space. So those small attentions to detail that are focused on inside of the sound design for this film was fantastic. Now, there's a ton of great positives that come with Alien Romulus, but that's not to say that I had zero negatives with this film. So with that being said, let's transition into my negatives for Alien Romulus. Starting with our main characters, our space colonizers, our main group. Everyone outside of Carradine, our protagonist inside of this film, is quite uninteresting. They're forgettable. I honestly cannot remember one name of any character outside of the protagonist. Her entire group lacks personality, lacks individuality, and fails to distinguish and establish themselves amongst their group. So when you do get the eventual fallout inside of this movie and slow descent into madness and killing scenes, you just do not care what is happening to these characters. You can care less whether they live or die, and it just affects the stakes that you feel inside of this film while watching. Now, not only that, but the entire first act inside of this movie is quite boring while they're trying to establish and get us to this destination of this space station where they're going to encounter the Xenomorphs. The whole ride there for the first act, for the start of this film, is quite uninteresting. You're trying to put everything together, but they're not giving you very many pieces to the puzzle, so you just slowly watch until until eventually you hit that second act and you do start to get the more interesting scenes now that the Xenomorph is involved. Now, one more problem that I had with this film was the use of AI. Artificial intelligence plays a huge role inside of this movie, which I thought was a very strange choice. I can understand we're in a futuristic environment here, so AI is something that more than likely would exist, especially on these space stations, but quite honestly, I found it pretty distracting inside of this movie. For instance, there's this artificial intelligence who looks identical and acts identical to a human being by the name of Andy inside of this movie, who our main character, Carradine, kind of views as like a brother figure, which is already very strange. But the more you go throughout this film, they try to use this Andy artificial intelligence character as a plot device to move the plot forward and also to get our characters from point A to point B, along with for some comedic relief inside of this film, which quite honestly I feel like it wasn't needed. It was quite unnecessary, and his character as a whole is pretty distracting, and it just makes me wonder, what was the point for going in this direction? We could have simply traded out Andy and just said he was another human, another member of the group, and it would have worked just as fine, but they didn't choose to do that. They went with this weird AI angle that was a bit messy inside of the movie. So now that we're done with the negatives, let's go to my overall review of Alien Romulus. Guys, this is one of the best films to come out this year, especially one of the best horror and sci-fi films. I thoroughly enjoyed my viewing experience of this movie. Once it makes it past that first act and moves into the second middle part of this movie and then the ending third act finale, absolutely fantastic. An amazing build from start to finish the entire way through. It continues to build and get exceedingly disturbing the more you go throughout this film, and just ups the stakes more and more for our characters, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And outside of some weird plot and character decisions, this was a magnificent film to witness in theaters on the big screen. I couldn't recommend this movie to you more, quite honestly. And let's just go ahead and drop my official rating for Alien Romulus. I would go ahead and give this film an 8.5 out of 10. It gets the 8.5 out of 10. A great watch. Go see this. Go support this film on the big screen in cinemas. I think you're going to enjoy it. I think you're going to get a kick out of it, especially if you've been waiting for some type of viewing experience that leans more into horror, thriller, or sci-fi elements. Now, I think compared to the original and the first Alien film, this movie does a great job not only paying homage, but finding its own place to exist inside of the Alien franchise. And up to this current point, I believe this would make my top 10 list for films this year. Now, with that being said, I would love to know your thoughts on Alien Romulus. If you've seen it, down in the comment section down below. If you haven't seen it, do you plan on seeing it this upcoming weekend? Let me know down below. And if you don't know what we do here on Demigod ENT, we do film and TV reactions and reviews. So if you're interested in any of this movie-based content, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next movie review. Peace.